Hello everyone, Jacob here. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this expression in a sense. And often we use it at the beginning of a sentence, but you could also put it at the end or even in the middle. It depends on the sentence. And in Korean, this means 어떤 의미에서는. And we've actually seen other expressions that are very similar. We talked about in some ways. We also talked about to a certain extent, okay? To a certain extent. And in a sense is very, very similar. In some ways, to a certain extent, I guess is closer to 어떤 점에서는 or just 어느 정도는. Whereas in a sense, I guess is closer to 어떤 의미에서는. Okay? But often you can use both in the same sentences. So let's go ahead and look at our first example. In a sense, everyone is a bit selfish. In a sense, everyone is a bit selfish. So if you've watched the video that I made about to a certain extent, there was a very, very similar example. I said, to a certain extent, everyone is a bit racist. And here I'm just changing it. I'm using selfish. What is selfish? 이기적이다. Okay? So in a sense, 어떤 의미에서는 모든 사람은 이기적인 사람이에요. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at our second example, and then we will move on. In a sense, the movie was successful. In a sense, the movie was successful. So in these sentences, I feel like in both of these sentences, you could also just say in some ways. In some ways, everyone is a bit selfish. In some ways, the movie was successful. Or even to a certain extent. To a certain extent, everyone is a bit selfish. To a certain extent, the movie was successful. So basically, it doesn't really matter which one you use. I'm sure there are cases where it's probably better to use in a sense, it's probably better to use in some ways, or it's probably better to use to a certain extent, but they are all very, very similar. And I recommend just kind of using them all, and that way you will sound very various when you're speaking. All right. So here, in a sense, the movie was successful. Well, what does that mean? It was successful in some ways. Maybe, for example, it didn't make a lot of money, but it won an award. Okay, so it was successful because it won an award, but it wasn't successful because it didn't really make any money. So in this case, you could use this expression. In a sense, the movie was successful. All right, and before we wrap up this lesson, I actually want to talk about something else that's kind of related to this expression. You can say subject, verb, object in the sense that, subject, verb, object. And this will have a bit of a different meaning. This means in Korean, 뭐뭐뭐라는 점에서. Okay? 뭐뭐뭐라는 점에서. And I've actually made a video about this. In the video that I made about this, we saw how you could just say in that subject, verb, object, in that subject, verb, object. So basically what we're doing is we're kind of putting this in parentheses. So this is kind of missing in the structure that we already talked about, subject, verb, object, in that subject, verb, object. So you can either make it very simple like that, or you can add in the sense that 뭐뭐뭐. All right, so I'm just going to give you one quick example since we already talked about this in another video with this kind of a little bit longer version. And I'm going to use this example up here. So I'm going to talk about how this movie was successful. The movie was successful. The movie was successful in the sense that it won an award. Okay, an award like, I don't know, an Oscar or something like that. So imagine that this movie didn't make a lot of money, but it was still successful in the sense that it won an award. All right, so here we are using this kind of structure. I guess it's kind of a structure here. When you use it like this, it means 뭐뭐라는 점에서. All right, so I hope you understood that. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I will see you next time.